Today we talk about rights and privileges. A right is something that you inherently have at birth, and it's something that no man gives a person. It's a natural right, it's part of natural law. A privilege is something special that's granted to someone, allowing them to have something, allowing them to do something, and there's usually a price attached. You have to earn it, and you usually have to pay for it. So, in a free society, we need to stop and think about those two words. Put a little effort in your day to day, and when you do something, I want you to think about, is this a right or is it a privilege? When you get in a car and you drive across town, go to the store, is that a right or is that a privilege? Because if it was a right, it would be unfettered. No one could take it away from you. No one could charge you for using that right. No one could tax that right. No one could charge you a usage fee. No one could impose fines and regulations on how you could use it. So, driving to the store is definitely a privilege. Living in a house, having shelter, you would think common sense would say that's a right, but it turns out it's a privilege because you don't never own a house. You pay property tax on it every year. Pay sales tax on it when you buy it, so I guess it's a privilege. Owning a car is a privilege. No matter how hard you work, even though you worked your ass off, it's not a right, it's a privilege, evidently, because it's never yours and you're not allowed to use it without being charged in multiple ways. In the political environment we're in right now, we really have to challenge that. And, we are in a society that has systematically been dumbed down and conditioned that we got to pay for our rights. And we really need to reevaluate a lot. And as long as we allow politicians, the government, and our peers to have the illusion in their mind that everything's a privilege and that one class should be able to demand revoking a privilege from people or imposing regulations on that so-called privilege. As long as we allow that to happen without a full correction, it's only going to get worse. Now, you can apply this simple principle, is it a right or a privilege, to everything we do. And I encourage everyone to one time take one day and evaluate everything that you do for that day. Is it a right or is it a privilege? And at the end of the day, you're going to be really surprised that what you were taught to believe was a right has been turned into a privilege. And your privileges are getting more and more regulated, and you're losing more privileges. But you see, you're already buying it because you believe in it's a privilege. So let's look at some examples. Is it a privilege to work? Or is it your right to work? Well, because it's taxed, it no longer falls into the right category. It doesn't even rightfully belong in a privilege category, because you're obligated to pay taxes. You're obligated to give the government part of your money. So now it becomes an obligation. It's not even a privilege. It's not your right. The First Amendment. It's a right, but yet it's a privilege, because when you exercise that right, you have entities that want to punish you or hide your speech, hide your text, hide your words, hide your video. And in the old days when everything was printed on a rag, it was pretty hard for our government to censor and to stomp free speech into a pile of crap on the ground. But technology's made it easy, because now we rarely use a rag to read. We rarely use a piece of paper and a pen. Hell, most people don't even endorse their paycheck. It's direct deposit. Everything is electronic, and as long as the government and corporations that are in collusion with each other are in control of that technology, you've lost your free speech, basically. It don't matter what we blast out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, or any other media. You don't have free speech. You might have free speech among a very, very small group of your friends, but rarely is anything going to go viral or get shared to the point of getting it out there. So technology has really silenced speech, But on the other side of this, I want to touch something here. People keep saying everyone's asleep. They need to wake up. Well, just because you're not hearing from them doesn't mean they're asleep. In reality, a very large percentage of this country is working so hard just to survive. They don't have time to do anything, because their rights to survive have been taxed and turned into privileges and turned into obligations. People want to say that the election is going to change things, and it's not, okay? Voting, desperately hoping to change your situation, desperately hoping to impose your ideas or your beliefs on other people, that's not freedom. Freedom is you having your rights and no one touching them, no one taxing you for them. There was a person killed the other day in Britain that was a politician that was going against everything her constituents wanted. And now the truth is even coming out that, even if the English vote for a Brexit, don't matter. It's probably not going to happen. We have that same problem here in America, folks. Our politicians don't listen to us. Our peers don't listen to us. And everything has become so hard left. And everything is based off of emotion that there's no using any logic with anybody. You can't get through to them. What's becoming apparently obvious is we don't have any rights, fuckers. They're all privileges. And most of those privileges are obligations anymore. So we have this fight going on about the Second Amendment, and we got a congressman came out and publicly stated that due process is the problem. They can't enact gun confiscation or assault weapons bans because due process is in the way. They can't make a no gun purchase off the no fly list because that would deny due process. Well, people are denied due process every day getting put on a no fly list. So, how far is the public willing to allow this to go? How many excuses are you going to accept from your politicians and everyone else to impose more and more regulation? You know? Why do they want us disarmed? Same reason Hitler wanted the Jews disarmed. You couldn't have made the Jews walk onto a train to a concentration camp to get gassed and slaughtered willingly if they would have had guns. But right now there's a very big misconception, okay? A lot of the public that does exercise their Second Amendment right, they're failing to acknowledge that the government has a barrel of a gun pointed at you constantly. You're going to follow their rules, or you're going to pay their fines, or you're going to go to jail. By force. You're going to pay their taxes, or you're going to go to jail. By force. You're going to do what they want you to do by force. Even if you don't actually have that gun shoved in your face, you have that fear in your head. You have that fear in your head that if you don't comply, you're going to be in deep shit. So, right now, the guns in the private public don't matter. Nobody's going to use them anyway. So hell, why don't you just give the left what they want? Nobody's standing up. Nobody's raising hell. The fact that we are allowing our politicians to even have conversations and debates about our so-called guaranteed constitutional rights shows how fucked up you are as people. We are as people. Because honestly, there ought to be somebody in the room that as soon as a politician or a government official starts to say, we need gun control, there needs to be a Mike Tyson in the room that goes over there and bitch slaps them and knocks them out and says, remember, that's not even supposed to be on the table. And it's not going to be on the table. You want to impose more taxes on people. There ought to be somebody in the room bitch slapping them and going, hey, work is not an obligation. Work is not a privilege. Work is a right. Survival is a right. And being able to do whatever you need to do to survive is a right. You want to know what's a privilege? Welfare is a privilege. Immigration is a privilege. Free education is a privilege. All these things that people think are rights are privileges. And the people that are, I'm pissed off. But the people that have to have these privileges to survive, they're the ones that are wanting to take your rights away and tell you their privileges. When the hell's people going to wake up? You're letting people turn your rights into privileges. It's already happened. You can either take your rights back, Or you can just come out and acknowledge and validate, yeah, my rights aren't rights anymore. They're just privileges, and it's okay. I'll pay you to use my privileges. Fuck you. What's wrong with that picture? So for one day, go through life, and everything you do, take a moment and stop and think about it. Is this a right or is it a privilege? And then stop and think, how do fees and taxes or fines apply to that? You're going to find that at the end of the day, there's very few things you're going to find that aren't taxed, regulated, and fined, which turns them into privileges and obligations and forced compliance. When one of your friends starts getting in your face and talking shit from the left, bitch slap them. Don't even try to use logic on them anymore. Just bitch slap them and go, what the fuck kind of nonsense are you talking? Because here's the deal, folks. It has nothing to do with right or left, Republican or Democrat, constitutionalist, libertarian, Green Party, Tea Party. Doesn't matter. It's about freedom. And the problem is too many people have lost sight of what freedom really is in this country and became dependent on the government through privilege. And because of that, they want to push the idea of privilege on the rest of the people that make it possible. Nobody's listening to you. Nobody's listening to me. It's time for some disobedience. It has nothing to do with race, gender, religion, money, lack of money. Nothing. It's about freedom. And all the freedoms that you believe you have, when you take a simple day and you evaluate each one, what's it cost me? What's it going to cost me if someone sees me do this? What's it going to cost me if someone says I'm doing it wrong? What's it cost me to buy a house, pay for a house? What's it cost me in property taxes? What's it cost me in homeowners insurance? What's it cost me in mill levies for education? Etc., etc. Sleeping is a privilege. Sleeping in a warm, safe place is a privilege that is taxed, fined, and regulated. Getting to work is obviously a privilege. Working is obviously a privilege. When you take a minute and you stop and you look at it from that respect, and you refuse to allow people to keep turning your rights into privileges, and you demand that the rights you already have that have already been twisted into legislative and legal and financial privileges, it's really time for all of us to bitch slap people. You don't even need a goddamn gun. You don't need no weapon. Just bitch slap an ignorant motherfucker. Maybe we need a fucking national bitch slap an ignorant fuck day. Thanks. Have a good day.